Hey everyone! Welcome back to your go-to channel for rare and valuable coins. Today, we're diving into a very interesting topic, the 1965 half-quarter dollar. Yes, you heard that right. A half-quarter dollar. But does such a coin even exist? And if it did, what would be its value today? Stay tuned as we uncover the truth. Alright, before we get into the value, let's first clarify something. The term half-quarter dollar isn't an official denomination from the US Mint. Instead, it might be a misunderstanding or a fun way some people refer to an eighth of a dollar, 12.5 cents, which, of course, was never officially minted. However, when people talk about a half-quarter dollar from 1965, they are likely referring to a regular 1965 Washington quarter, 25 cents, but maybe a damaged, clipped, or altered coin that appears to be a fraction of its original form. So what makes the year 1965 so special for US quarters? Well, before 1965, quarters were made of 90% silver, but due to a nationwide silver shortage, the US Mint decided to remove silver from quarters and replace them with a copper-nickel clad composition. This was a major change in American coinage history. The 1965 Washington quarter was struck in large numbers, over 1.8 billion coins were minted, making it quite common. But, despite its high mintage, there are still some valuable variations. Now, if you have a regular 1965 Washington quarter in circulated condition, its value is typically only 25 cents, because it's still in use as legal tender. However, if your coin has certain errors or is in a high-grade condition, it can be worth much more. Now, let's talk about the real moneymakers, the error coins. Some 1965 quarters have unique mistakes that make them highly valuable. Some 1965 quarters were mistakenly struck on leftover silver planchets from 1964. If you have one, it could be worth thousands of dollars. You can test it with a magnet or a precise weight scale. A double die quarter has noticeable doubling on the date, motto, or design. These can be worth $100 to $500 or more, depending on the clarity. If your 1965 quarter has an off-center strike where part of the design is missing, it could be worth $50 to $300, depending on how dramatic the error is. Some 1965 quarters are missing their nickel coating, exposing the copper underneath. These can sell for $50 to $200 plus. If you think you have a valuable 1965 quarter, here's what you should do. Sad face: use a digital scale. Silver ones weigh 6.25 g, normal ones weigh 5.67 g. Check for doubling, off-center strikes, or missing clad layers. A certified coin grading service like PCGS or NGC can confirm its authenticity and value. Try eBay, coin dealers, or online auction houses for the best price. So, while a half-quarter dollar from 1965 doesn't officially exist, the 1965 Washington quarter can still be a valuable find, especially if you have an error or a high-grade version. Always check your spare change. You never know when you might find a hidden gem worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. If you've ever come across a 1984 half-quarter dollar, also known as the 1984 Washington quarter, you might be wondering, is this coin worth more than face value? Well, stick around, because we're going to explore its history, key features, and how much it's worth today. Before we talk about its value, let's take a quick look at the history of the 1984 Washington quarter. This coin is part of the long-running Washington quarter series, which was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birth anniversary of George Washington. The 1984 quarter is made of a copper-nickel clad composition, meaning it doesn't contain silver. It was minted in large numbers, making it a common coin in circulation. Features a portrait of George Washington Liberty, inscribed above, "In God We Trust," to the left, mint year, 1984, at the bottom displays an eagle with spread wings, holding arrows, and an olive branch. United States of America, is inscribed above. E pluribus unum, appears just below the eagle. Quarter dollar, is at the bottom now. Let's talk about where these coins were minted and how to identify over 1.2 billion of these. Quarters were minted across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, making it a very common coin. But what does that mean for its value? Let's find out. Since the 1984 quarter does not contain silver, its value mainly depends on condition and rarity. In circulated condition, these coins are generally worth, you guessed it, 25 cents. However, collectors are always looking for well-preserved quarters, especially those with errors or in uncirculated condition. So let's take a look at some higher-value cases. San Francisco minted proofs with deep cameo finishes can be worth $10 to $50. Some rare errors, like a double die obverse, DDO, or a misaligned die, can fetch $50 to several $100 depending on rarity. If you think you have a valuable 1984 quarter, it's a good idea to have it graded by a service like PCGS or NGC. Now, let's check out where you can sell these coins. So, where can you sell a 1984 quarter if you think it's worth more than 25 cents? Here are some options: eBay, Etsy, and coin collector forums. Some dealers buy high-grade or error coins. Great places to find serious buyers. If you suspect your coin is rare, getting it graded can increase its value. So, is your 1984 quarter worth more than face value? If it's a standard circulated coin, probably not. But if you have a high-grade version or a rare error, you could be holding a valuable piece. The 1984 Washington quarter is part of the long-running Washington Quarter series, first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington. This series replaced the Standing Liberty Quarter and was initially meant to be a one-year commemorative issue. However, due to its popularity, it became a permanent design. His original design was based on Jean-Antoine Houdon's 1786 bust of George Washington. From 1932 to 1964, quarters were made of 90% silver and 10% copper. However, due to rising silver prices, the U.S. Mint switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition in 1965. The 1984 quarter was minted during a period when the U.S. was experiencing economic recovery under President Ronald Reagan. While it wasn't a particularly rare year, many of these coins saw heavy circulation, making high-grade uncirculated examples more desirable to collectors today. The 1977 USA half-quarter dollar, also known as the Washington quarter. Is this coin just pocket change, or could it be worth more than you think? Thinking face, stick around, and let's find out. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington. Since then, it has been a staple in American currency. The 1977 quarter belongs to the copper-nickel-clad era, which replaced the 90% silver quarters after 1964. Did you know? The 1977 quarter was produced at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D, and San Francisco, S for proof coins. Before we talk about value, let's check out the details of this coin. Features George Washington's portrait, designed by John Flanagan. The word Liberty is above, and In God We Trust is to the left. The date, 1977, is at the bottom. Shows a bold American bald eagle, clutching arrows, and an olive branch, symbolizing strength and peace. The words United States of America and E Pluribus Unum are inscribed above. The San Francisco S mintmark coins are proofs, meaning they weren't meant for circulation but rather for collectors. Now, the big question: how much is a 1977 Washington quarter worth today? Let's break it down. Most circulated 1977 quarters are worth only 25 cents since they are common. If it has light wear but still looks good, very fine or extremely fine, it may fetch around $0.50 to $1 in rare cases. Some MS-67 plus graded quarters have sold for over $1,000. So, if you have a 1977 quarter in pristine condition, get it graded. Here's where things get exciting. Some 1977 quarters with mint errors are worth big money. Look out for these errors. If the design is misaligned, values range from $25 to $500 plus depending on how dramatic the error is. Check the lettering, especially on Liberty or the date. A strong double die can be worth hundreds of dollars. If the coin has a missing section due to a minting mistake, it could sell for $50 to $200. Look for raised lines or blobs in the design. Collectors will pay extra for unique flaws. Always check your change. That one lucky quarter in your pocket might be worth way more than 25 cents. So, is the 1977 Washington quarter a hidden treasure? Gemstone? Well, in most cases, it's just worth face value. But if you find one in high-grade condition or with rare errors, you could have a valuable collectible. The 1977 USA half-quarter dollar, officially known as the Washington quarter, has a rich history that dates back to the early 20th century. While the coin itself is a standard issue of the Washington Quarter series, understanding its origins and historical significance provides a deeper appreciation for its place in American numismatics. The Washington Quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The U.S. government wanted to honor the nation's first president, and a new coin was chosen as the ideal way to do so. Initially, the quarter was intended to be a one-year commemorative issue, but it became so popular that it replaced the Standing Liberty Quarter Permanente. The obverse, front, of the coin features a left-facing portrait of George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. This design remained largely unchanged for over 70 years, except for small modifications in details and minting processes. From 1932 to 1964, Washington quarters were 90% silver, making them valuable not just for spending but also for their precious metal content. However, due to the rising cost of silver and a nationwide coin shortage in the early 1960s, the U.S. Mint stopped producing silver quarters in 1965. Instead, it introduced a copper-nickel-clad composition which remains the standard for quarters today. By 1977, Washington quarters were made of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel, giving them a silvery appearance but no actual silver content. The year 1977 was an interesting time in American history. The United States was recovering from the effects of the 1973 oil crisis and experiencing economic inflation. The first Star Wars movie, Episode IV, A New Hope, premiered in theaters, changing pop culture forever. The U.S. Mint was ramping up coin production due to the increasing demand for small change in daily transactions. While the 1977 quarter wasn't particularly rare, it played a crucial role in everyday commerce during this time. The Washington quarter design remained largely unchanged until 1999, when the U.S. Mint launched the 50-state quarters program. This marked the first major change to the quarter in decades. The 1977 Washington quarter represents the later years of the classic design before state quarters took over, making it a nostalgic piece for collectors. The 1977 Washington quarter may not be the rarest or most valuable coin, but its historical significance, durable design, and role in American currency make it a great piece for any collector. Whether you find one in circulation or own a high-grade example, it's a reminder of the rich history behind U.S. coinage. Better known as the 1983 Washington quarter. Many collectors love this coin, not just for its design but also because of its interesting history and value in circulation. So, if you have a 1983 quarter in your collection or pocket, stay tuned to find out if it's worth more than 25 cents. First, let's take a look at the design. The 1983 Washington quarter dollar continues the classic design introduced in 1932, featuring a portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. The words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" are also inscribed, along with the year 1983, the majestic American bald eagle, clutching arrows, and an olive branch, symbolizing strength and peace. Above the eagle, you'll see the phrase United States of America and E Pluribus Unum, while the bottom reads quarter dollar, to indicate its value. The 1983 Washington quarter was minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark, over 673 million minted. Denver Mint, D mint mark, around 617 million minted, and Francisco Mint, S mint mark, proof only, about 3.2 million minted. Philadelphia and Denver mintages were high. Most of these quarters were circulated, meaning finding an uncirculated 1983 quarter is rare. No mint sets were officially released in 1983, making high-quality specimens even more valuable to collectors. Now, let's talk about the value of the 1983 Washington quarter in circulation. But wait. Some rare error coins can make your 1983 quarter worth a lot more. If you see a doubled effect on Liberty or Washington's face, it could be worth $50 to $500 if the coin was struck off-center. Its value can range from $20 to over $200 depending on the percentage of the error. A missing portion of the coin can make it worth $30 to $150. Some Philadelphia quarters may have weak or missing mint marks, which can attract collector interest. If you find one of these errors, you might be holding a hidden treasure. You never know what you might find. Visit local flea markets or estate sales. Old coin collections sometimes have hidden gems. Go coin roll hunting. Banks still circulate older quarters, and you might just uncover an uncirculated one. Use a magnifying glass or microscope to check for mint errors or doubled dies. If you think you have a rare 1983 quarter, get it graded by PCGS or NGC for authentication. So, what do you think? Do you have a 1983 Washington quarter in your collection? Let us know in the comments below. The 1983 Washington quarter is part of the long-running Washington quarter series, first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the first President of the United States. The design, created by John Flanagan, was meant to be a temporary one-year issue, but it was so well received that it became the standard design for decades. The early 1980s were a time of economic recovery in the United States following high inflation in the late 1970s. The 1983 Washington quarter was struck during this period and played a crucial role in daily commerce. Unlike special or commemorative quarters, the 1983 quarter was minted for general circulation, meaning most of these coins saw heavy use. A key historical fact about this year's quarter is that no official U.S. mint sets were released in 1982 or 1983. This was due to budget constraints at the time. As a result, finding a high-quality 1983 quarter is much harder compared to other years because most were heavily circulated, making uncirculated examples more valuable. Although over 1.2 billion 1983 quarters were minted, finding high-grade examples today is difficult due to the lack of official mint sets. Many collectors search for uncirculated rolls or error varieties to add value to their collections. The 1983 Washington quarter followed the standard composition introduced in 1965, which replaced the original 90% silver quarters, struck from 1932 to 1964. The composition for the 1983 quarter is 75% copper, 25% nickel, clad coinage, core, 100% copper weight, 5.67 grams diameter, 24.3 mm. The 1983 quarter saw heavy use in everyday transactions, making mint condition examples harder to find. Since the U.S. Mint did not issue annual sets in 1983, collectors rely on uncirculated rolls and proof coins for high-grade specimens. Some 1,983 quarters feature errors like doubled dies, off-center strikes, and clipped planchets, which can significantly increase their value. The 1983 Washington quarter is a historically significant coin due to its high circulation and the absence of official U.S. mint sets. While its face value is 25 cents, high-quality specimens and error varieties can be worth much more to collectors. Whether you're a numismatist or a casual collector, finding a well-preserved 1983 quarter is a great addition to any collection. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy collecting. See you in the next video?